Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. And as people come in, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. Appreciate y'all being here. As always, whenever you come into chat, if you have any questions during the presentation or while anytime during the show, absolutely put the question in there. I'll try to get to it the best I can. Mrs. Steve is in Florida right now, and so she's not with me. She's out there modding somewhere, I'm sure. But appreciate everybody for being here tonight. And like I said, always be mindful of families, mods, and each other. And tonight we're going to be looking at some of the affidavit that came out, particularly regarding the missing moms of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. Came up missing in Oklahoma after they left their residences in Kansas. And of course, we've heard about this mission and that this group of misfits. And there are several misfit groups out there. And it's not all of them are related. And so they go under the name of God's Misfits. And there's some Facebook groups out there that are separate from this one particular group. And so I want to make sure everyone's aware of that not all of them are associated with this, but this one in Texas County and in that we have this one group of misfits that for whatever reason they came up with this plan of action and labeled it as a mission. And of course, anytime we have such a mindset of any group, sovereign citizens or otherwise, and which the sovereign citizens are a special group of individuals out there that the way that they look at our government, our court systems, law enforcement, they're on their own path. And the antics of what's going to be coming into the court systems and what we're going to be seeing in the coming days, if they are the hardcore sovereign citizens type, and that's their mainstream of how they view America and the Constitution and the court systems, there's going to be a lot of antics that you may not be aware of. And absolutely go out there on and search on YouTube, sovereign citizens and courts, and you will be absolutely amazed of some of the antics, and you'll also be impressed with how some of the judges handle. And if they go that route, what we're about to see is going to be unusual as far as how the courts will address them. But anyway, let's get into it here. If you have any information regarding this case with Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly, absolutely make sure law enforcement has it, the prosecution has it, for the fact that as this court trial and moves forward for justice, they absolutely need to have all the information out there. It's absolutely, when you read the affidavit and as the days progress, and there's still seasoned properties out there. I mentioned in my last show that just after, the arrest is only one part of where this of the investigation goes into. There's still a lot to be done, because once you effect those arrests, now you have access to certain properties and a lot of different types of evidence that you will address in the search warrant affidavits as you seize properties, digital devices, cell phones, computers, financial records. There's going to be so much out there that we're going to be able to look at. And even as we've seen, that was addressed in the affidavit, even some farming equipment and machinery, such as a skid steer. So it's going to be absolutely something that will be that we'll need to look at as this case moves forward. For the fact that when we have groups or individuals, when we have a group of individuals trying to commit a crime, and as we've seen in this affidavit, that you're going to have witnesses. Sometimes those witnesses are the actual offenders that turn upon each other. And will that happen in this case? Sure. But you also have other people that, as we've seen from this affidavit, that were party to, as far as witnessing, observing, hearing some of the conspiracy, as they spoke about the custody battle and where it was heading. And it's absolutely sad that other family members have been exposed to this, and even younger members in these families. And are there, how many are out there? How many witnesses? I don't know yet, but we're going to be made aware of them as we move forward with this. For the fact that, there was discussions early on about a cattle trailer that was seen in the area. Well, today they seized a cattle trailer. And so that's something that, or I was made aware of that they seized one. And so that's absolutely something that law enforcement, anytime they seize any property and haul it off, tow it off, there's a reason for it. They have information, or they've detected something during the searches of the properties, and from blood evidence to fingerprints to hair fibers. It can be any different types of, there's many different types of evidence, and we just don't know what all they'll find as they move forward. But anyway, the what started this, of course, is that we have this child custody of some kids, and one of them's going to have a birthday. And so family, during the visitation rights, and went to pick up a child, which was in the Butler family, that when she did not show up as planned, they started looking. And of course, they found the vehicle, and law enforcement's notified. And upon seeing this crime scene, they quickly determined that there was enough evidence to consider it foul play. And as you can see from some of the things that anytime you find glasses in the roadway, you find what has been reported as possible pools of blood, and then some type of blood evidence from inside the vehicle. That is pretty, sad to think of those last moments of what went on at this particular crime scene, and and how many other crime scenes do we have? We know now we have a disposal site that's looking at, but that doesn't mean that we're the last moments of their lives. Was it here at this? We even have where a pistol magazine, and a pistol magazine, of course, for those of us or of you that are unfamiliar, a magazine is what holds the ammo in a semi-automatic or type of firearm. And a pistol magazine, of course, is just a small handheld gun. And this magazine, it didn't say if it was if there was ammo in it, or it doesn't say here. It says a pistol magazine was found inside Kelly's purse at the scene, but no pistol. Now, does this magazine, is it one, and does she carry more than one magazine? Is this something like a lot of people do that have multiple magazines for their firearms and carry them along with them? Mrs. Steve, myself, we always have additional magazines. But, and I don't know if this is the case with this, and is the pistol left at home? Was it taken from the scene? Was the victim able to engage the offenders? Hoping so. We just don't know yet. But there's a lot of unanswered questions. And even from the affidavit, there's a huge question that comes up that from this teen witness that, and she's going to be a huge witness for the state. And it's going to be, what she knows of this and the people involved, and you know, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations, they've absolutely have put into the affidavit some extremely key information. But from this information that she provided, there is one thing that is kind of strange to me, and I won't, and you'll see it also when we get to it. But anyway, she heard that the group discuss that Butler was not protecting the children, that there was a family member that had exposed the children to some abuse. And of course, that is part of the grandmother's reasoning of that, of why she would have to interfere with custody. But she took it to a level that if the courts could see that the mother wasn't going to be able to provide security for these children by the natural mother, they would have taken the necessary steps. And so evidently that's not the case. But anyway, that this teen was advised by her mother, Cora and Cole, her husband, that they would be gone in the morning on a mission. And that mission, it turns out to be, is going to be involving the homicides of two individuals. And of course, Butler and Kelly. And that of the other evidence that we'll see as we go through here that the affidavit refers to, such as burner phones. This witness saw the burner phones charging on, or saw two burner phones charging on her mother's nightstand. And she would be able to identify it. I mean, she lives in the household. She knows what phones, just like I know what phones Mrs. Steve has. Mrs. Steve knows what phones I have. And if there's additional phones in the house, we can recognize those. But anyway, that this teen witness was advised that and was told by Cora that Cora and Cola blocked the road and diverted the victims to where Adams, Cullum, and the third male were waiting. This third male is going to be interesting. I know there's some that have been identified, but is it actually the case? There may be another arrest coming. There may already have been an arrest. I'm just unaware of it when I gathered this information. But this is what she was told. Doesn't matter if it never comes to pass that there is a third party and a third person involved. This is her understanding of what the details were. She relayed that information. And so even sometimes when certain testimony is given, not all of it falls in place. Not all of it comes that every point is proven true. But the one that bothers me the most is that the young child, the teenager, was told to clean the interior of the truck upon their return, as things hadn't gone as planned. And what was their plan? And what messed up? At what point would, because we have two homicides, we have a grandmother that was stating prior to this, and death attempts on this person's life had occurred prior to. So something happened, and in transferring of evidence, did they lose control of the victims? Was there some type of fight? What happened that caused them to say that there was a mess up, or there was something that didn't go as planned that is causing for this vehicle to be cleaned out? Now, it could be just from the simple handling of the victims and transferring them from one location into a vehicle to be transferred. Because the vehicle here that is described is not a vehicle you would imagine would be used for transporting, as it was flatbed and a cab and two people riding in it. So, but it still had to be cleaned up, and there has to be a reason for that. So there's some type of mystery with the cleanup in this vehicle I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm looking forward to figuring it out, or whenever it is released, of what part did this vehicle play, and why and what needed to be cleaned up in it. But anyway, but the mother told this teen that that she was involved, and that other persons that were eventually arrested were also involved in these homicides. And but she also asked, were the victims put into a well? And they said, the mother said something like that. And of course, we have part of the affidavit that says the skid steer dug a hole, and there was some concrete, tree stumps, and hay covering of this area. Before we get too much further, we'll close out this one here. But also, this witness claimed that other attempts. So she knows that back in February, our other attempts were made to either get the butler out of her residence in Kansas, and they failed. Are there going to be police reports of those contacts and what happened up there? Don't know, but we'll find out eventually. All right, let's get into chat here and see what's going on. Don't want to get too far behind. I'm already Olivia. Good to see you. Sensei, good to see you. Barbara Hall's in the house. Good to see you. See if I can get this thing working over here. There we go. Sweet Caroline. Hello, Jim's mom. Good to see you. Farmer. Farmer says prayers for Kristen behind the crime door. I knew she was going to be having surgery. I haven't heard an update. Joanne Jackson's here. Sharon Edwards, Dandy Linus, Boston Christian. Kansas 66. Good to see you. Jocelyn. Let's see here. What else we got? Who else is in here? Don't want Miss Cyrene made it on time. Yes, you did. And hello, Peggy. And this is a good question. Is this group the same as a militia? Some of these sovereign citizens do have militias. I don't know if this group here identifies in that way, although law enforcement most certainly brought in the resources that they considered them extremely dangerous. And even in the affidavit, one of the investigators speaks about, as they were talking during an interview, that one of the individuals was wearing a firearm that came up trying to get access to the team witness. And so regardless if they're a militia or otherwise, law enforcement addressed that, and they brought what it appears necessary equipment and materials to ensure that they were be able to effect the arrest and also to effect any searches of the properties and maintain control. Marion Tate, good to see you. You knew. That's a great name. Al on the prowl. You're killing me, Smalls. So they use, no, don't know if that's the case, but it is missing. Is that one of the things that went wrong? Was she able to present a firearm? We just don't know. But no, that's not what anyone has jumped to that conclusion that I know of. Is it possible? Absolutely, but we just don't know. Yes, and it is that we have all these families and children and cousins, aunts, extended families in the community also. That absolutely, this is something that no one wanted to happen even there. Yes, and she could have not just brought it that day. It could be at home. We just don't know. Sometimes, I believe in the Second Amendment. I always will support it for such a reason that you never know when you're dealing with certain individuals what's about to happen. Oh, yes. When we get into some of the things down here that this religious group identifying as God's Misfit, and they purchased 5 stun guns. And that's interesting, and we're going to talk some about that, the mindset of buying stun guns. Now, when those what was the purpose of that, and what were they going to do, and what were their plans? Were they just going to go possibly back to Kansas again and do a home type invasion and use stun guns to get them out of the house? Don't know. But it's interesting that then they had the burner phones and they bought all that prior to the homicides. So did this witness come forward on her own? I'm sure that once, and that's the thing, is it really wouldn't have mattered either way. If she came forward on her own or otherwise. Law enforcement, when they go out and they start conducting these interviews, that while you may have juveniles, and juveniles have certain protections and parental rights and the parents of notifications and things, but there's also as child protective services and the courts. There are certain ways that children, underage children, can be interviewed even without the consent of the parents. Law enforcement, I'm sure, would have went down those paths and make sure everything was in order, and so that she could speak. Or, like I said, she may have just came out and said, "Hey, this is exactly what's going on, and this is what happened. This is what happened," and not even been questioned. There's several different ways that law enforcement could have gained information from her. I just don't know. And that's the thing, that when you have these groups of that absolutely are out there, and they have children, and we have a constitution, and you can have these types of groups that can absolutely get together, have their meetings, have freedom of speech, do anything and everything. But when they impose their will upon others and go out and commit crimes, there's a whole section of the United States back many years ago of people going west, and that the FBI in some of our training talked about some of these sovereign groups and other groups way out there that were that through criminal enterprise, they funded their organizations. That while they would go out and buy land out in these remote areas in the West, then they would go around the United States and commit armed robberies of banks and things. And that's how they funded their whole livelihoods in the West. And there's been some noted firefights and shootouts throughout history involving some of these groups. As far as this group here, I haven't went in and looked at any other type of criminal activities or awareness if they're on any type of terrorist or a list or any of those. Yes. And as you'll see in the affidavit, and as we go forward with this, these are the charges that this group has on them, from the 2 homicides to the kidnappings and the conspiracy. And absolutely, I hope they face the ultimate penalty for that. But anyway, this lady here, for whatever reason, she's the one that went into courts and made certain statements that's documented, and then she's the one that that we can look at on her phones that she had played a large role in the planning of this. Now, why would she look up taser pain level? Was was it going to be something that she was going to try to torture and get these people to, or her ex-daughter-in-law, to sign over custody or something? I mean, why would you be looking up taser pain level? Just doesn't make sense on that. And but I could see where you could use a taser, people possibly trying to understand that if I use a taser, is it going to be enough to incapacitate them, and for us to get control of them, tape them up, and possibly even gag them and get them out of a house, say if they did go to Kansas. I don't know at what part of the the taser plan was going to be into it, the searching of the gun shops, um, buying the prepaid cell phones, getting someone out of a house. That's interesting. That's all of this is going to come out, and this is going to absolutely play a huge role in how the prosecution moves forward and what they seek as far as the penalty phase of this case, especially involving this woman, because she purchased those items, and those items pinged at the last known locations of Butler and Kelly, and she bought those stun guns. Now, as far as what was the manner of death, we still don't. I don't know yet, but I'm sure that's going to be released. It may have already been released. I'm just unaware of it. No, no, I do not think. These people were these victims, Veronica and Jillian, were going about their lives as in a manner prescribed by the court. They were going and doing things lawfully within what was supposed to occur. And so they had the right to fight and not go anywhere. And I mean, and I know you're not trying to say that, but what was going to happen to these victims, I think, was going to happen regardless. If they had went to their knees and said, "You have control," or "Let me go get in the car on my own," what was going to happen to them, I think, is already, it was already planned, for the fact that we have this other individual, Tad Burt Collum, digging holes the day before and requesting to dig holes on another property. So regardless of what was these ladies going to do when they were confronted, they were going to be taken to this location. And you're not taken to a location, a second location. And as we've always heard, the second location is far worse than the first location when you make contact. So you try to avoid that second location at all costs. And so if they fought or if they went willingly, they were still going to be going to this second location. And that may be exactly what happened, that when you think back and you see this one here at 6 o'clock, that it just didn't go as planned. Is that because they fought back and they weren't able to control them as easily as they thought? And that's what led to where we was going to have cleanup and all this other stuff, because it may be exactly that. It may be as simple as that. Yes, she's a daughter of one of the offenders. Yes, they did a fantastic job. I was worried when they called in the FBI, but like I said, was that for a specific task, and was and I don't know if it was to bring in those vehicles, or if Oklahoma already has those type of assault vehicles or heavily armored vehicles. I don't know if those were FBI or if they were Oklahoma, and they may have brought them in for the resources. Is Christian okay? I know that she was supposed to be having surgery. I haven't heard though. Did they ask the girl to clean the vehicle so she wasn't an accomplice? She's a young girl, and she's living in an environment of, and she's a child. She's not an accomplice, and I do not think that the courts will look at her as that, um, because she's under the control of her parents, and uh, you know she still isn't. We don't even know what her mental capacity is. So I'm not going to start, throwing, the kids that are exposed to this. You have the fear You have your mother and your father, or I don't know if that's her natural father or otherwise, but the uh, under that influence, and so I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt that she's not. Yes, is that exactly what kind of conversation to have with a 16-year-old kid? Absolutely ridiculous. Lori Garland, good to have you here. I'm glad you're here. But but the affidavit says that Adams, and so Adams absolutely was a major player in this, and it will turn out, I'm sure, in court that she will, because she's telling this uh, visitation supervisor to take off, and was that part of the surprise that Adams, when they saw that, oh, there's two women in this vehicle. It's not just, I thought I took care of that. And is that part of the things that made it go awry as far as it wasn't according to plan that we have another? Or was it specifically that was she targeted? We just don't know yet. But Adams was the last known person to communicate with Butler, and their phones stopped transmitting to the network at 9:42 a.m., just a few minutes prior to when the meetings was supposed to, and the custody exchange was supposed to happen. And I'm interested in exactly how they disabled those phones, and for them to stop transmitting, um, someone had to have um, certain knowledge of how to break them, turn them off, put them in a device, put them in water. How did they stop those phones? And that was part of the conspiracy and the planning, I'm sure. Because if I try to turn, I don't know if I could get Mrs. Steve's phones turned off. I'd have to search how to turn hers off. She has different ones than I. Danny Linus, I'm upset that 6 more children no longer have moms. I'll never understand how people do these things for their children while not considering the long-term effects on the children. Exactly. It's and that's the thing is that these people, they're at a level that they think that the disposal and the removal and the homicides of someone is the only way out. They can't control the court systems. They can't control law enforcement. They can't control the children. They're not going to be able to keep custody of them. And their only thought process is that, oh, I'll take out the person and and I'll ensure they won't have custody, and I'll take out anyone else, and eventually I'll be the only one that has custody, and never considers that they'll be caught. She did everything in her power, this Adams lady, as far as that guaranteed that she was going to be identified as an offender. You know, the searches on her phones, the purchases, doing it local, and, you know, and even threatening in court. So if there's anyone out there that's going to be jumping on, and of course, in our court systems, they're still innocent until proven guilty. But I don't think that we're going to see as many people jumping on the innocent until proven guilty things, and that there's other conspirators and offenders out there. I don't think we're going to see that with this case. Could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see it. CJK, Gail. Let's see if there's any more questions. Yeah, that's why I think they tried to use a stun gun. It wasn't going their way. Very possible. But where were they going? They still were going to, I mean, you don't buy stun guns and dig a hole. Ultimately, the hole is being dug for a reason. And So, and that's where it's going to, before the fact that we also have this teen witness that says that other attempts on Butler's life were made in February. So, what were those attempts? When were they? How were they? What were the discussions that she overheard on that? And it's a far deeper, darker story than even what we have in this one affidavit from her and the arrest of other things that went on. And will these people be facing additional charges if they did go to Kansas? Absolutely. Will it ever go to court? No, but it could. And that may be some of the federal stuff that they called in for certain crimes crossing state lines to commit certain acts. That may be some of the federal stuff that's going to be coming in. Yes, there was lots of blood. That's what I heard. And I even saw where someone said that even the vehicle had more blood in it than what was first reported. Let's see here. Just trying to get caught up a little bit. Yes, and how would you ever explain it? Not only to the Butler children, but the Kelly children that that their mother absolutely, and they're from a Christian background, faith. Father's a preacher, and the understanding. I mean, it's just going to be absolutely a hardship on so many. And then there's these other children, their schoolmates, classmates. It's going to affect a lot of people. Hello, Sweet Pea. Yes, a young child that was raised in the wrong environment. Absolutely. I know that they're in the affidavit. They referred that the children were babysitters, and everything that you could do to implicate yourself as being a participant in this homicide, Adams did. Absolutely unreal. Oh yeah, I agree. True. I think this young girl was very helpful to police with the information she gave them, overhearing the plan for Fed, the plan to throw an amble, the phones on the nightstand, and yes, what type of mentality is it that one of our plans of action of making it look like a accidental death is that we're going to throw an amble. Ambles are heavy. I'm telling you. Not many men could pick up and throw an amble. And so I know why they, and that's something else that these stun guns and whatever torture or whatever their reasoning for having those stun guns wasn't just to threaten and coerce the women into just giving custody. There was a very dark side to what the ultimate plan was. In my mind, my opinion. Hello, Cynthia. Good to see you. Jill Moser, good to see you. Oh, Miss says, I wasn't thinking LE would see her as accomplice, but the group was setting her up. She didn't fall for it. Good point. I didn't look at it that way, but yes, now I have had, and this is a good point that Miss Cyrene brought up. I have seen where people were at homicides that, they went there to possibly do a lesser crime, and it escalates until homicides occur. And then the leader of the offenders, of whoever's there, whoever that alpha is, male or female, doesn't matter, whoever that alpha is, that they'll make sure that everyone there does some type of injury to the victim, to make them a part, to play a role in that death, so that that's a way that they figure that that will ensure cooperation and silence and secrecy, that you played a part in it. You helped in the homicides. You committed a certain act. And did any of this happen with the other uh, um, of this core group? I doubt it, but by doing it with this witness, that's a good point, Miss. That could possibly be why they had her do that. Alicia Warner. Alicia Varner said, "We are putting together a benefit poker run for the kids and families in the planning stages now. It would be in Hugoton and Bullwhackers. Watch out for flyers for the date." Very nice of you. Appreciate it. And absolutely send us, we'll, send it out to as many of us in the true crime and other YouTubers out there. And we'll put it on we'll have it posted as many places as we can. Happy Camper, who hires the stooges to do their dirty work? Makes me wonder if this type of activity is business as usual. I'm telling you, these idiots, barbarians, animals, doesn't matter what you call them, their thought processes absolutely, are there any sovereign citizens out there that are brain surgeons or rocket scientists, are deep into the within the establishment as far as leaders and communities? I don't know. I've never seen one. There possibly could be out there. I'm looking forward to any feedback I get because I'll get some feedback that yes, this is our sovereign leader. This is our mastermind of our plan. I just don't know of one. But yeah, these stooges and these barbarians they hire to do this stuff, or they're within their orbit of friends. This is the end result of this specific group. What about the Paul Grice? And he's mentioned an affidavit. Yes, but there's no charges yet. And of course, we had the teen witness make reference to a third male. What part did he play? And we don't know. Was he one of the witnesses that came forward? Did he run away and hide and came forth to law enforcement and said, "These people are crazy"? I don't know. Is he cooperating? And there has to be a reason that if he was at the scene, and we don't know if he was, we don't know who the third male is, or if there was a third male. Did he call in and say, "Hey, I'm not going to participate in this"? And then later on, after it was it part that there was going to be a third male and didn't show up, and later called law enforcement? There's so many possibilities and variables we just don't know. And but if there are others out there that need to be arrested, law enforcement will make sure of that. That's a great question and great point. Miranda Lee, good to see you. Necessary Evils here. Boston Christian. Maybe they don't. Yeah, no. You can throw stun guns in a creek or a river, and but no, no, I don't believe that's the case. Yes, and that's something else. They tried to go high tech with stun guns. It had to revert to the basic hammer because there is reports that the broken hammer was nearby, and what type of individual does it take to do that type of because there's different types of offenders and classifications. It's one type of individual that will commit crimes with a gun or a knife. Actually, this homicide here was committed with a hammer. Takes a special type of person to beat someone to death with a hammer, and or even assault someone with a hammer. So that is something that has to be considered. I don't want to be attacked with a hammer. I guarantee you that, because I've seen what a hammer will do. But yes, that individual is hopefully will forever be in jail for what he did with that hammer. Let's see. Yeah, they've been planning it. I mean, they attempted in February, so she was able to evade them for quite a while, and but ultimately, yeah, you would have to drop it from some higher. Isn't it? I don't even think that there's any way that if a anvil fell off the back of a truck that it would ever bounce through a windshield. I just makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, when you have this type of mentality, if they had gained custody of the children, and I worry about the children now because whatever exposure they were given to, um, how, because this grandmother, think of the mental picture of her conversations of what she probably told these children about their mother, uh, and and how bad and why they should be. What type of fears did she instill in these children, um, and so that if they went to court, that these children would possibly maybe testify that their mother or whatever. But when you have this type of person and this mentality, and I've seen it, I've answered calls where parents absolutely um, would just do everything in their power to soil and destroy the reputation of the other parent. And they would use law enforcement sometimes as a tool of harassment, that they would constantly call us to go over there when it was the other parent's visitation rights, and saying that there's a child in danger, there's child abuse occurring. And of course, once that got back to the judge, we corrected it. But still, we have to answer those calls, and those children are at times put in situations that it's not good for their mental state. Hello, Lori Solon. Good to see you. Ruckus, national treasure. Oh, man. Yes, the arraignment's 9:30 tomorrow, so we'll get some more information on that. Hopefully, everything will be out and be reported. I don't know if they'll have cameras in the court, but we'll see. Yeah, you do yes. Where else would you possibly bury someone like the Chad and them did in the backyard and pet cemetery? And these individuals went to and even told the property owner, I'm suspected of doing certain types of crimes, and I just want you to know that the hole I dug on your property is not related, but they may consider it suspicious, or whatever that conversation was. absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they're all idiots. Yes, I agree, Mulligan, that these would need to be, I'm sure the counseling and the therapy, the deprogramming, yeah, yeah, they're going to need a lot of therapy, um, because I'm sure they even love their grandmother, regardless of what or how, because young kids at that age level are not going to truly understand what's going on in their lives. I wonder if stun gun marks would still be visible for the autopsies. It would be interesting. Um, not all stun guns. Now, I was tased a lot in my career. They tested a lot of different stun guns and tasers. I was shot with them, and if Mrs. Steve ever tells you that story, that's probably the maddest I ever saw Mrs. Steve is when I got shot with a taser, because it burnt me pretty good, and but tasers don't work on me. Even when they shoot you, and that's the things that when these less lethal devices are used, doesn't matter if it's a taser or stun gun or otherwise. Not everyone will succumb to that electrical stuff, and my boss wouldn't buy the tasers at that time for the fact that he said, well, they don't work. And we don't want to put our officers at risk in case someone runs across someone it doesn't work on and they're trying to tase them, then they lose control of the situation. But, there's always that. We weren't a large department, but we weren't a small department either, but you still work by yourself, so that you couldn't always make that choice that, and the training that comes along with less lethal, that you have to have lethal backup when you're deploying less lethal. We weren't in a position, we had to make a choice instantaneous of what to draw and in these high risk confrontational things. And if you're trying to bring in less lethals, it can get you hurt. Plan to use them to get sign over stuff towards them if possible. But ultimately, regardless, whatever their plans were, they still had dug that hole. And there's a reason they dug that hole prior to going over there and doing the abduction, the kidnapping. And that's going to play a large part in the courts and or not the courts, but in the prosecutor's eyes of what type of penalties he'll seek in this. And I hope he seeks the ultimate. Yeah, and they didn't think it was wrong. That's a good point. They shouldn't discuss the plans. Crazy. Um, Sasisa. Where is Mrs. Steve? Miss her. She's in Florida tonight. I'm in Georgia. I have to come up here every a few days every other week, and as we do the transition and check on properties and things. And this property in Georgia, they're still up for sale. Absolutely, they wanted this mother gone, and she made it absolutely clear. Miranda said, I wonder if any of them is getting a plea for talking first. That may be, law enforcement will look at what information they have. They have all the cards now. To get to this position, did one of these offenders early on come forward? Don't know. And very possible. We just don't know. But now that we're in this position, would they ever need to get anyone to, testify against the other offenders? Probably not. Because we have that team witness that heard the conspiracy. And that's a huge. point. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It didn't go to plan. Um, um, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. Uh, Anything about it. Why leave the vehicle? You know, um, just doesn't make sense. If you have a skid loader, there's a lot of things you can do with a skid loader. So their plan was not really very detailed. Yeah, Slim. They really thought they weren't going to get caught. Not too bright. No, I mean, you've got two plans. Let's throw an anvil. Let's buy stun guns. Let's do this local. Let's do it out in broad daylight. Just absolutely crazy. Let's threaten everybody and and do it in court where it's documented. Mr. Steve, do you think drugs could have been involved because they're not very smart? I don't know. We haven't heard any of that yet. Why did people who are not family help Adams? Um, Tad, I understand, is in a relationship with Tiffany. Cole lives on the property or has some type of close relationship, Cole and Cora, and with Tad. So, and they're all part of this. I look at more of a cult for the fact that if you go out, you look at Charles Manson, that's a cult. I look at this more of a cult. I'm not going to address them as sovereign anything anymore. They're a cult because anytime that you go out and you start, for whatever reason, I don't care if it's political, court, otherwise, and the only rational you cannot have a rational thought. Your thought of how I can solve a problem is let's kill a young mother. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you. Where they set up the roadblock, I wonder why or if the women didn't panic right then. I can tell you, you would think that in that type of environment, and I will tell you, ladies, right now, don't stop. If it's flat, I don't care if there's ditches. You drive until you can't drive anymore. And in that terrain, and unless the ground was just soap, they could have. I don't see how they could have blocked them in. I won't know a lot about that until I get out there. Whenever I go through, I'm going to get a little bit better understanding of that terrain and what is drivable and what is not drivable because it's flat. And I'll ride around, and I've chased and I've been in a lot of pursuits in my career. I've drove through standing timber, beat patrol cars all to pieces, chasing motorcycles and everything else. But vehicles will go a lot of places, and but we have this thing in our minds sometimes, and I've told my daughter, baby Steve, and Mrs. Steve that you don't always have to drive on paved roads. You take that car, you drive it anywhere you need to drive it to get home. And I wish they had done this. I don't know how well they were blocked in, but I most certainly wish that they had taken a whatever. And it's not their fault. It's not the lady's fault. It just didn't occur to them. They may have just stopped to talk, and they were overcome quickly. And I'm not trying to blame them for not acting, because this isn't something that they would have had um, um, any thought process to even think about. But uh, as far as a learning curve for anyone out there, if you're placed in this type of situation and you have people that are trying to block you in, don't allow it. Drive that vehicle. You got insurance. If not, we'll do a GoFundMe for you. Um, yeah, they found a partial hammer south of the car by Veronica's sunglasses. Yeah, being close to the sunglasses isn't a good sign, though, is it? Love to hunt. These people have lost their brains to the devil. Absolutely. Junior Johnson's in the house. Good to see you. Jody says, "You believe if the teen witness is under police protection?" I absolutely would believe so. Absolutely. I'm still trying to figure out the anvil plan, but there are some smaller anvils. Yeah, but this doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's our best plan. Let's pick up an anvil. That's no, yeah, super glue or duct tape. Absolutely. Can't fix stupid. Or will they reveal the method of death on arraignment? Uh, Probably not, but it's possible. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of uses for anvils. I have one. I actually have several, um, but uh, um, but a lot of times you have anvils, vices. There's a lot of work that requires those hard surfaces, and even especially if you have any type of livestock or you have horses, anvils come in handy for some of the farriers' uses. Yes, and Anna makes a good point here. The full postmortems, the extent of what type of injuries were involved, we don't know. But Manor's death is a homicide, and that's all they're going to need right now. That's a good point. I can't tell you that's what that she is in police protection, but I would imagine a lot of locals says Adams was scary. Yes, you don't get this crazy overnight. Um, it's not uh, a normal to crazy level. We have the not the mayor of Crazy Town. We have the president of Crazy. Uh, if there was a continent or a country, she is. She would make a great candidate for the president of Crazy. But absolutely, they lived in Crazy Town, no doubt. I'd be mad if my husband was tased for giggles. Well, we were testing the equipment, and I was the test mechanism uh, because I have a high pain tolerance. I have an extremely high pain tolerance. That's one of the things that has led to Mrs. Steve having to clean up um, blood trails and things. I'll hurt myself and I don't know it, and I'll be walking around, and Mrs. Steve is upset because I've created quite the mess. Yeah, I hope that they this is exactly that it's imposed. Steve, will those four be charged equally? You know, I don't know. That'll be up to the prosecutor of, you know, because we have one lady that went and told her daughter that it didn't go as planned. What was her full understanding of plan? Um, you know, did she know that there was a hole being dug? But as far as whoever dug the hole and whoever um, um, made statements and did this planning, there's two of them I have no doubt that ultimately knew what the outcome was going to be. Now that's my opinion, but I absolutely believe that at least two of them knew exactly what was going to happen. Did the other two? Don't know. Or other three. Ruby Ridge Clan Top Talk. Yes, and but you know, Ruby Ridge was a very complicated case, and still is a complicated case. Oh yeah, I guarantee you, they never thought that. Um, uh, as far as different types of blood evidence of what was happening, in fact, got out of control. You're absolutely correct. They never imagined it would get to that level. And this is a good point. She could have. I'm guessing what didn't go as planned was Jillian having her gun out. It's very possible she did. Absolutely. And and I'm hoping that she did. Man, are they just digging the time? Well, they've dug themselves a deep hole. There's no doubt. If Ellie had not gone with SWAT and so many vehicles, I wonder what would have happened. It's reported that Ellie didn't want another Waco. It did, and they didn't go there with the intention for it to be a long drawn out thing. I'm sure, um, because they've already seen what these um, individuals. Whereas Waco was just the trigger that started that was the making of these firearms that were controlled by the government and but this here is due to a homicide. And so I don't think LE was ever going to let it get to the level of Waco. Let's see. If anyone's here that don't forget to hit the thumbs up, guys. I always forget to do that. And because we absolutely appreciate everybody being here. I'm telling you, you know, absolutely. If it's going to be me or my family, I don't care who you are. It's not going to go well for you in front of my vehicle. Steve at True Crime, I don't blame them, but sure wonder if they had any idea how cruel Adams could be. I doubt anyone had any idea how cruel she could be. I doubt even uh, Tad, Bert Cullum had any idea of how cruel she could be. Um, you know, and we look at a lot of people that in hindsight, there's a lot of clues and a lot of indicators of true evil. But until they act upon that and commit certain crimes, we never see it coming. So sad. One of these days, I'll tell you about a certain pursuit of when I got back. Everybody was very impressed. Oh, I'm a newbie. Haven't studied this case. Just looking for the motive. The motive was that child custody and grandma wanted these kids. That and that's the motive. Ultimately, that it's what her opinion and only her opinion of where these children should be. She didn't even want the her son, and she wouldn't give custody of these children to her son at that time. And now, of course, if he was in certain conditions, I would agree with law enforcement saying that the kids are better left with you than him. And so these children just absolutely never had a chance. And it's absolutely terrible. And, their recovery is going to be long. An anvil like the Roadrunner? Yeah, absolutely, farmer. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they make a 25-pound anvil. Most of the ones I've dealt with are, I don't know if I've ever dealt with anything less than 100 or 125-pound anvil is ones I've dealt with. Yes, farriers, they use anvils, and but they're generally attached, bolted down, um, for the fact that you can't have a loose anvil riding around in the bed of your truck, um, because if you do, it's going to come through the back of your truck. If you slam on the brake, if it gets any momentum, it's coming. Uh, and generally, some of these anvils, at least on one end of them, next down to almost a spear pointed uh, point, and it will penetrate almost any surface. I've come close to losing a foot or two on them things, dropping them. And you're from out there. I've never been driving around and swerving and be like, oh, dang, some animal fell off again. No, most of them, now pipers and a lot of your, here in the South, a lot of your plumbers and your work trucks and railroads, they have anvils, but they're all mounted to their vehicles. They're not anything that just lies around loose. Yeah. Oh, man. Anvil haulers. Kansas 66. Do we know if cameras will be allowed? I don't know, but I'm hoping they will be. You're the opposite. You have zero pain tolerance. Let me tell you guys, it is not what you think it is. It's dangerous. I've, you know, I've come in, I've fallen, I've cracked bones, not know it, and I've got scars. Never knew it. Um, both my mother and father, for whatever reason, they both had that trait, high pain tolerance, and I got it, and I have to be careful. Now it saved my life quite a few times in my career. You be in some of these close quarter battles, um, one or two, even three offenders at times. And the only reason I survived those is that my pain tolerance. Didn't know I was hurt. Uh, you have a high pain tolerance. Okay. I'm not. I don't have any kidney stones. Thank goodness. Yeah, yeah. I mean, who comes up with that plan? Now we've had where there's bridges, overpasses. You have where rocks and things and bricks get thrown off of vehicles, and people are suffer some serious injuries and even death from those. But you have to have a bridge or overpass for that to even work. It's not like it's going to be bouncing out of a truck. Ranger Rick. Yeah, these idiots told so many people that they plan what they plan. I doubt it would do any good for one of them, other major players, to turn state evidence for a lesser penalty. How long does it take to get autopsy reports? Weeks, months? They can be done in just a week or so. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but typically they'll go in. I've been at them. I've watched the doctors work. I mean, it's not a long uh, uh, drug out process. Of course, you have to document every injury. It depends on what type of assault occurred, what type of injuries you have. Is a knife or blunt force injuries. Those take a little bit longer. If it's gunshots or just a single stab wound, not so much. But if you have long, violent encounters, some of those can take quite a while to work out as they go through each identifying of each injury. I so hope she did. And I hope that the magazine in her purse was an extra magazine, and I hope. Yes, when they found the mag, I hope, and they got it from her. Worst case scenario, if you carry anything it takes to make sure that doesn't happen, absolutely. Officers and others lose their lives every year due to that. Trying to get caught up. Got quite a few here. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Kimberly Lots. So much evil in people is sickening. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry that your family had to go through some of that. Rose Burton, how do you get so evil? I don't know. What is the process for that? But it's absolutely um, oh, I'm sure another channel provided information that the children loved their dad and that he was an attentive and loving parent. Absolutely. And I've seen, um, the rehab programs and everything trying to straighten out people's lives, and some people can straighten out their lives. And just because you have certain addictions and you have certain vices doesn't mean that you can't have children. You can't be a great parent. And so, absolutely, I agree 100% that he could have been a great parent and father. But sometimes, from the law enforcement perspective and from the court perspective, that these type of individuals, while they love their children and want the best for their children, that under the influence, sometimes bad decisions are made. Junior, I know when I'm hurt before it happens. Oh man. Oh, I've done things and realized, oh, when this door shuts or hood shuts, or that cinder block finally gets to my foot, it's going to hurt, or it's going to cause an injury. I don't know if it's going to hurt, but it's going to cause an injury. All I read today was they were lightly contained with stun guns. Do we know if another weapon was used or if taser was enough to forcibly move them? There has to be some type of for if there's blood evidence, there has to be some type of injury that corresponds with that. Is it going to be from the broken hammer? Is it going to be from a gunshot? Is it going to be from blunt force? We just don't know. But there had to be something that caused the victims to bleed. I'm just trying to get caught up. We're getting there. Yeah, I'm just a minute or two behind. Yeah, unfortunately, there's not any sovereign prisons. Yeah, but that's where they're headed, and that absolutely this type of evil does not need to walk our streets. But anyway, guys, I want to thank everyone for being here. Give it a thumbs up, share it if you like the video, and absolutely appreciate everybody being here tonight. And I will see y'all. Let's see, I've got another show tomorrow for our members, upper two tiers. And so I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Y'all take care. Stay safe out there. See y'all soon.